Heya folks, hope all's well with y'all. Ahn'qiraj is out. My guildmaster is a Scarab Lord, the gates have opened on Herod-Na. We'll check out some war event stuff later. Cthulhu awaits, so let's go see what happens. Enjoy. Alright, so first things first. The way things worked out, the gates happened to open very early in the morning, just before the Tuesday reset. So my guild and another guild joined together for a 7 AM raid, and just have a look at the priest's mana right here. They don't look too low, right? Anyway, we put together 20 of their members, 20 of ours, and if you want to know how that raid went, well, it wasn't all quite like this, with the healers healing or doing nothing at the moment, when they should be spamming that mana burn, which does not cost too much mana, because if you don't do that, that happens. It was a learning experience. That's how best I can summarize it. Welcome to AQ40, no big deal. Anyway, after getting some sleep and doing other things that people had to do after the 10-hour war event, staying up all night, we were out in front of AQ40 at the normal raid time, summoning people when a whole bunch of Zugs showed up to interrupt our summons. That's not good, and it's certainly not something that we can handle. I put a frost trap on the stairs, but that's certainly not going to hold them for very long. I scattershot that mage when he blinked in, the first one to blink in, but that's about the only thing that I can do to help the other people get in before they're frost nova'd. I got feared, but I'm alive. I got feared inside. GG's, Zugs. We came back out there later when it was a little bit more clear. Oh hey, this one has Ani buff. Let's kill it. Would you like some salt with your buff, sir? Anyway, we resumed our summoning efforts, so the raid could begin properly with all Midnight members. By the way, I'll be spamming in the raid warnings various pieces of information that I recall from Light's Hope or the 7 AM raid regarding this trash and some of the bosses in AQ40. So if you have not seen AQ40 before, you might want to just have a look at the raid warnings whenever they pop up. They may contain useful information. These things are not troublesome if you drain their mana, as you could see, but as you saw earlier, if you don't drain their mana properly, then, well, the entire raid gets instantly one-shot. These guys are a little bit more interesting. They each have one ability, and on death, they pass that ability on to the rest. So the idea is to kill whichever one is harmless, or the most harmless, and then finish with whichever one is the most harmful. This one is mending. It only heals periodically, and that's not very significant when we're beating it up so thoroughly with our strong DPS. This other one that we've started attacking is Reflection. I think it reflects Frost and Shadow because I see Fire and Arcane spells being tossed out. It's either Frost and Shadow or Fire and Arcane. This other one is Mana Burn, it seems, and that's not good for our casters. If we killed that one first, all three of the remaining ones, would have the Mana Burn spell. Now this one has Thunderclap and all the rest. So you see how that works. It can be kind of nasty. One of the nastiest combos is Thunderclap and Shadowbolt Volley, but it's nothing compared to the Anubisath Guardians up ahead. Those are much more difficult versions of these guys, in some respects. There's another painful combination, especially for the melee and for your pet, which you might want to be aware of on those Anubisath Sentinels. They can have Thorns and Thunderclap, and in that case, the melee are very likely to kill themselves by smacking the Anubisath Sentinels. The Thorns, for some reason, does ludicrous damage each time you smack the mob. I think it's something like 500 damage. There's something else to note about this. There's an Obsidian Eradicator that patrols around the Prophet Skeram's platform, and it could be pulled before these 4 Sentinels, or you could pull the Sentinels first. If the Sentinels do have some dangerous abilities, then pulling them up needs to be done swiftly and efficiently, because you may need to split one off very fast or something of the sort. So just make sure your raid is ready. My guild has decided to pull the Eradicator from now on because we would rather engage the Sentinels in the next room, not this one. It seems to be easier that way. Anyway, that's about all for this interesting trash. There is yet more to their variety of abilities, but it's nothing that I'm going to go through. This Obsidian Eradicator is in a very good position to pull right now, but I'm going to let it go, because this is a progression raid. Our goal is not to speed the raid up at this juncture. Right now, our goal is simply to ensure that our guildies have time to digest the new mechanics that we'll be up against in this raid. It is a long raid, there is a lot to learn, and there will be even more to learn in Naxxramas. So it's important that we don't whip everyone into a frenzy and get them in a rushed sort of mood. We're just here to learn. That's why I do not care about buffs, that's why I never did a buffs run. And that's why I won't be showing the parses after these bosses. They don't matter. If you're thinking about the parses, get out. Get the hell out. I don't care. You shouldn't care. This is the first week. Anyway, Skeram is fairly simple, actually. We just leave a raid marker on top of his head, like the one that I just put on top of him, and that persists through his splits. The clones that he spawns can cast all the same things that he can, ideally those arcane explosions are interrupted. The real one will continue to split every 25% HP, and the clones are recommended killed first because they die very, very quickly compared to the real one. And they clearly can cause quite a lot of damage, as you see on the raid frames on the left. They're also inconvenient for our guildies because they mind control people. And if you have any sort of zealousness in your melee core, then you know how mind-controlled guildies usually goes. They get caught in a whole whirlwind of blade flurries, and wind up dying and losing all their buffs. And yes, some people did go out and get buffs today, even though it's inadvisable on a progression raid. So maybe he's a bit scary, especially if those arcane explosions don't get interrupted. But he's simple enough. We'll collect our ahn'qiraj Lord's insignia off Skeram's corpse, and then continue on to the next trash. And by the way, there is another raid warning up there if you'd like a quick summary of what this trash does. These things are kind of funny, actually. Besides the, not the big teal fellows, I'm talking about the little, actually kind of big, purple bugs. The knockback, the sheer ferocity, the power of their knockback is quite humorous. If you don't keep your back to a wall, that is. They tend to knock people straight up into the ceiling, even if the ceiling is very, very high, and it can kill you quite fast. There are also a couple of patrols of Vecnus warriors around, and for those we can assist the raid by dropping a frost trap down. I put a flare up there so that none of our guildies walked over the edge of the cliff, because goodness knows some of them would if I didn't point that out. And we'll head down here and engage these Vecnus warriors. Actually, someone did fall down there earlier this morning, at the 7 a.m. raid, and pull another trash pack back on us. I think it was one of the rogues who fell over the edge and died. And then we had a whole bunch more of those mobs coming up our way. But this is what the frost traps are for. These little ads that spawn. After the patrol there, we did go down to kill the bug trio, the trio of bugs. But we'll skip over that for now, because we have more to do to get to Cthulhu himself. Or itself. Whatever the heck Cthulhu is. With 6 of these guys in one pack, you know that people are going to be knocked up all over the place. This thing is on me, but I'm going to get a few ticks of volley out anyway. And if you ever wanted something to Bladestorm, Well, it's kind of risky because their knockback also comes with a damage over time component. I'm gonna drop my Ravager macro on my bars here. Ooh, see, there's the impale. A first-person perspective of getting knocked up to the ceiling. But we'll try for the Blade Storm. If we get Blade Storm, then we can't be knocked up, but we will get bled. Golly, that bleed sure does hurt. I'm gonna pop my Lily Root right there. Looks like the healers were on top of me, though. My poor pet, though, can't stand it. There is a patrol of Vecnus warriors that ducks into this little room, and they can pull during that first pull there, so just be careful of that. There's no skull target this time because my guild has decided, hey, we're going to kill these guys all at the same time. My advice earlier was to kill them one at a time, but apparently killing them all at the same time is probably easier. The mages have bops that could be put on them, and hey, as long as no one dies, I'm okay with that. The only concern with killing them one at a time is that the little guys might get out of hand, but not with a frost trap there. Here we go, pulling some more Vecnus Guardians, and I'll drop a flare on a good spot where the group can go. I got a Blade Storm, but it was in the wrong place. We'll be summarizing the repeat pulls. This Blade Storm is in a better spot. And there we go, we got a tick. But we'll fire off the multi-shot and go in again. Oof. Oh, this might kill me. Healers? Yeah, oh, that was close. And you see, that's the danger of going in on these guys. They're remarkably dangerous. For some reason, the pet can't seem to despawn in here. So even walking this far away from it, it still dies. It still has to die before these bugs will come after us. But a little sacrifice for the pet is a-okay as long as we stay alive to Blade Storm. And try to drop an explosive trap, but fail because we're knocked into the ceiling. The melee are getting knocked all over the place. They want to stay behind the mobs, but the tanks are up against the wall, so what are they supposed to do? Ah, and that was the last of those sorts of packs, so we'll be moving on to Sartura now. Sartura, it sounds like a feminine name to me, but apparently he's a he, despite appearances. I suppose it doesn't matter. We're going to kill him, and hope that we get a badge of the Stormguard, because it is the funnest trinket. I don't care what anyone says. It is the funnest trinket. Or one of the funnest. It's half meme, half fun, because Sunder Armor and other stuff will already get bosses in vanilla down to pretty much 0 armor, but you know what we could use Badge of the Stormguard for? We could use it for cleaving stuff that isn't sundered. We could use it for our own DMT farm. That's a lot of fun. Claw of Cthulhu, the Vanquished Tentacle, is probably a close second, but is more meme than practical. Although it is actually practical. You can drop it during some melee weaving, and it'll be put to very good use there. It actually, I've heard it hits quite hard. All the ads are down now, and Sartura is still spinning around. The melee are gonna try to run out when the spinning resumes, because hey, they should have known from me, if you stand in the spin, you're not gonna win. But if you are doing the spinning, then you always win, because you are the Ravager, and you have the luck of... I don't know what I'm going on about. Anyway, we're ranging... Hey, get out of my way! I'm trying to kill a boss here. We're resigned to range here. Our pet's dead because I was paying more attention to getting the ads under control at the beginning of the fight. In this fight, it's a simple matter of pulling it out when it's spinning, when the boss is spinning, and sending it in when it's not. Very simple for us. Not so simple for the melee. That whirlwind, I don't know, it hits 2k per tick, and those ticks happen very rapidly. Kinda scary. The ranged are gonna finish her, him, her, whatever, off now. And we can go ahead and claim ahn'qiraj Lord's Insignia. There will be no badge today, but there's no time to dwell on that, because we are coming up on the most exciting gauntlet in the entire game. This speaks for itself, so enjoy.
fast as fuck, boy. Yeah, boy.
Golly, that sure was exciting, wasn't it? I can't wait to come back and do that again, and again, and again. Oh, God, that was so boring. That gauntlet is so boring. I don't know how they did this. I mean, with Suppression Room, you had to coordinate with your guildies. There was some real structure to that. In this one, you just walk through the bugs and that's it. And this boss is a bit of a loot pinata himself, too, so... come on, Blizzard. This boss is very, very simple. All you do is... this is it. You just stand behind the boss and pew-pew. You maybe drop a frost trap on the cluster of people who are stacked up to eat all the ads and keep them all in one place more easily. Maybe some worms show up, but they're not nearly as dangerous as I remember. And that's it. But the good news is we are coming up on some trash that can one-shot us, so that ought to be interesting. And that's not even the Cthulhu trash. So we'll see what happens when we get to it in just a moment. I was thinking, what am I supposed to do to make this even remotely interesting, even remotely exciting? And well, I hope you enjoyed that little segment. It was a lot of fun to spruce up. Alright. The scorpions up ahead are fairly unique. There are only a few of these, or rather, a few pairs of these. And I'm not sure why that is, because there is quite a lot of the other trash that we'll be coming up on between here and Huhuran, and that other trash is a lot more interesting. But for some reason these exist, I guess to fill the space, because I suppose it must be filled by something. Between here and the other trash. It's the mid-boss trash, I guess. As for what they do, well, I'm not going to complain about that. All they do is really melee the tanks, and occasionally spit out miscellaneous poisons. So they're not particularly dangerous at all. The third pack is way up ahead, so we'll go up there and shoot their completely harmless fat, scorpid, purple butts.
Vecnus hive crawler.
Oh, so fat. Oh.
Oof. Alright, I stand thoroughly corrected. These things can actually be quite dangerous. One of their poisons does a lot of damage, so it's probably not ideal that the tanks and healers are so far behind me. In the meantime, while we're waiting for a res, we'll explain what the next trash does. And it's useful to have a nature protection potion for these guys too, because, well, the wasps, they spit out a poison, the stingers can consume that poison to deal a ton of damage all at once, and the lashers will cleave. The poison and the charge are the kickers. If you are not poisoned by the Vecnus catalyst, which springs to life after an itch goes away, then the charge will be quite harmless. It will only do under 1,000 damage easily. But if you are poisoned, then in that case, they're extremely dangerous. That's why I decided it was a good idea to mark up the white wasp first, to eliminate the threat of the one-shot. There's only ever one of those stingers in every pack. And the wasps are the things that spit out the poison. Both of them work together to create that one-shot mechanic, and given that there are many more wasps than there are stingers, the stinger is probably the most prudent target to eliminate first. Or, you know, I might be thinking of the AQ-20 wasps with their charge that deals under 1,000 damage. These things probably deal over 1,000 damage. Right here I get a little bit too close to one too soon. Gotta pop my deterrents. They smack me anyway, and I've got a feign death right there. Close! But I'm alive to pull another day. Or another minute, I suppose. Another second. There's no time to waste. You know, how these guys work does bring up another important point about how chain pulling them can be optimized. There's no threat of a one-shot as long as there's no stinger in the group, and the wasps are otherwise rather meaningless. So I'd say it's safe, you know, as safe as it's going to get, to pull the next pack as long as the stinger in the last pack that you pulled goes down. Youch! And that's why you want some nature protection. A normal potion is very cheap, and it'll save your life on this fight, on this trash. Here's Huhuran, and you've probably heard a lot about her. She's infamous for requiring nature resistance, but as we predicted, on Official Classic we can simply, easily, zerg her down. The only not-so-trivial thing about her is 30% HP and the tranks. We'll need to fire off the occasional trank shot in order to keep her from spitting poison on the melee more frequently. But yeah, and I suppose she does have an AoE silence, but when she gets down to 30%, all you need is another nature protection potion for the melee, so that they don't die instantly, and all of your burst cooldowns. You just burn her at 30%, and you're A-okay. Ideally, everyone lives through that, and if they have brought proper consumables, then they have. There goes Cutie, dying to the ignite threat. All the mages have rerolled fire, and as you may know about mages, the ignite is given to one mage. Excuse me. The ignite is given to one mage, and that mage will skyrocket in threat. The ignite sometimes needs to be dropped, but that also needs to be learned by the mages. And by the way, all the melee are dropping dead at the moment. You can see how nasty the 30% damage is. So if they have consumables and all their normal gear on so that they can zerg the boss down as soon as possible, they'll be okay. Putting nature resistance on will simply make her take that much longer, and you'll take more damage overall. Not recommended if your guild has the DPS. But while you may be able to zerg down Huhuran, zerging down this next trash coming up, these Anubis Guardians, is certainly implausible. I suppose they're like bosses all on their own, actually. Or at least Molten Core bosses. I posted a ton of information about them just a moment ago in raid warnings, but the important bits of information are regarding their primary 4 abilities. They may have a combination of 2 of them. This one is Shadow Bolt Volley and Plague, but the other 2 abilities that it may have are Thunderclap and Meteor. It'll never have Shadow Bolt Volley and Thunderclap at the same time, and it'll never have Plague and Meteor at the same time, because these mechanics are opposed to one another. If it's Thunderclap, the range needs to split off from the melee, because otherwise the raid will take way too much damage for the healers to sustain. And if it's Shadow Bolt Volley, everyone needs to stay close, because it's only cast on those at range. This thing is exploding, so we need to move at range now. But that's another mechanic, you can ignore that for now. Regarding Plague and Meteor, well, we saw that with Plague, the person with the Plague had to split off. This one is Shadow Bolt Volley Meteor, and Rockbow died to a melee swing there. It was not my fault for pulling this thing incorrectly. The group was right here where it needs to be, because that other patrol would have pulled onto us if we were any further up. So where with Plague, one person needs to split off if they have the Plague so they don't kill the group. With the Meteor, everyone simply stacks up. And because it's Shadow Bolt Volley, everyone stacks up in the melee, because that way no one is struck by the Shadow Bolt Volley. The meteor deals one-shot damage only if you're by yourself. If there are other people with you, then the damage is split evenly between you. Between most of you. I think there's a target limit on how many it can hit, but that's the point. You'll just stack up. So, in execution, it's really quite simple, but hearing about it for the first time, not actually seeing it, it's a lot of information to digest. This one is also Shadow Bolt Volley Meteor, so let's move on. This one is, let's see here. It's Thunderclap, so all the range need to split off. We have our own marker to follow. Thunderclap and Meteor. So the range will be very far back. As you can see, the Thunderclap has quite the range on it. But with the range will stack up like this. The Meteor will not kill us, and we're far away, so only the melee are being struck by the Thunderclap, but they can handle it. We are providing Aspect of the Wild to the melee DPS in our groups, we hunters, and if they have any nature protection left over from Huhuran, or if they took another nature protection potion, which I do recommend as a melee, then they'll be fine. Nature protection potions are just so useful in here. This thing is also exploding, so the melee are running out. There it goes. I do like how these guys are designed. They're one big trash pack, like those lab packs in Blackwing Lair, all rolled into one. Kind of interesting. This one's also Thunderclap Meteor, so let's move on to the Twin Emperors, and the big Eye of Cthulhu hovering ominously in their chamber. You stand before a god, we stand before a god, but we will slay that god soon enough. The Twin Emperors also have their own little dialogue going on, but we can ignore that. This fight is all about the tanks doing their own thing. As long as we don't screw it up by DPSing during a swap, then these guys die. Easy peasy. Just in case our warrior tank doesn't acquire the melee boss quickly enough and he goes running off towards the caster, I stand by ready to auto-shot on him, just in case. Nothing more than an auto-shot. Distracting shot will not work on the melee mob, the melee boss, because he is immune to magic. We can't put Hunter's Mark up, we can't use Serpent Sting on him, we can't do anything that would even remotely be considered magical to him. But he and his caster brother will occasionally swap locations, and that's why there are 4 tanks in this fight, 2 warlocks and 2 warriors. Because not all debuffs will be usable on these bosses on this encounter, it's one of those rare opportunities where we do get the chance to use Serpent Sting on this fight. There will not be so many debuffs on the physical boss or the magical boss, but the debuff limit has not changed. So if we get the chance, if the teleport happens early and we're still on this side of the room, you could fire off that Serpent Sting before moving over to the other side of the room. Although ideally, we're at the other side of the room when this swap occurs, so that we can continue damaging as soon as the tank reacquires the target properly. And besides cleaning up the bugs that occasionally grow big and red and become hostile, that's really all that there is to this fight. I've heard some comments about Screech and pulling the yellow bugs more often, but hey, the warriors are going to melee anyway, you know the rogues are going to blade flurry, and Screech is remarkably valuable. Maybe on the progression pull you don't pull unnecessary bugs, but hey, if you get the chance, if you see the opportunity, go ahead and use that Screech, because it is quite a valuable debuff, and it does work on the physical boss. Anyway, that's the entire fight. You've seen it already, but it goes on for much longer. Let's see some burst right here, with our quick shots rapid fire syncing up. That's always lovely to see. A lovely coincidence. But there's only so much time to do that, because before long we're needed on the other side of the room. Some of our guys die throughout the fight on occasion, including, unfortunately, our bear tank and one of our DPS warriors. But we do pull through in the end and slay the Twin Emperors. Huzzah!
GG. GG.
Fucking one shot.
Let's
go, midnight,
baby.
And with them dead, now we're on to the worst trash in the entire game. Just as soon as we loot our Kiraji Lord's insignias off both bosses, of course. The trash up ahead, the Cthulhu trash, can only be described as chaotic. There's little that we can do about that, but we'll try our best. The hunters can try to help by pulling things to better spots as soon as possible, but there's only so much that can be done about the Mind Slayers. The Slayers are probably our biggest concern, not necessarily the biggest concern for the group. The Slayers will frenzy on occasion, and in that case they hit quite hard and quite rapidly. As you saw, that just annihilated one of our group mates. And it's important that we stay on top of tranking that, not like I did there, because I was focused on attacking the skull target. This trash is chaotic as it is, so perhaps we'd be best put to use sticking to our target like glue, and ouch, that hurts. I'm gonna pop my lily root. Didn't need it, but good to have the extra security. Perhaps it's better for us to stick to our targets like glue. Having some DPS warriors throw on a shield and try, keyword try, to hold on to some of this stuff can really help reduce the chaoticness of the trash. So that's certainly a recommendation. Bit of a lag spike there too, but we're okay. Here's the triangle going down. It was frenzied, so I popped off my trank shot, and now I'm going to jump around because I lose my train of thought quite easily sometimes. My mind is elsewhere. I'm processing what I'm seeing here and trying to devise a strategy for the next pack, so I don't realize that I should stop and actually shoot this thing. The big guys, they're the only things that a fear ward can affect with their intimidating shout, which actually counts as a fear. The Mind Slayers also have a quote-unquote fear, but it's actually a horrify effect. We'll not be seeing that on this next pack though, because it's 4 Slayers. There are no Mind Slayers in this group. Because we only have 3 Hunters, the skull must be annihilated. The Hunters will do our best to trank shot the other targets, but the skull will need to be nuked because there is no trank shot available to take that thing out. This thing is way too close to me, and the frenzy effect already expired. But there is something to note about the Slayers, which is useful to know for both controlling your pet and also for the melee DPS. When they stop to do their whirlwind, they stop. They get a brief buff, and when it expires, the whirlwind goes out. Similar to how the Ravager works. Right there, you can see it. And because they're rooted in place, the melee can actually dodge it, and your pet can too, assuming pet passive is responsive. Having 4 Slayers is significantly easier than 4 Mind Slayers, though, regardless of how hard they can hit and how scary they can be. So we're fairly lucky on this pack. The big guy does have an enrage of his own, but it can't be dispelled through trank shot. A priest, on the other hand, is capable of casting Dispel Magic on this Kiraji champion and dispelling the effect. This is the last patrol in this hallway, so we've moved into this hallway to engage them here. This ought to be more interesting because there are Mind Slayers around. I'm being Mind Flayed, so I can't do anything but wait for heals. And the thing about the Mind Slayers is, besides generally providing CC for the enemy, they could also mana burn. Rather, they do always AoE mana burn on death. Not only is it a horrify effect, which also affects the melee, but as the name suggests, it does burn some mana too. The mana burn can be lowest or outranged, so if the Mind Slayers are tanked on, say, a wall or something where the melee can quickly duck behind the corner before it dies, and the range finish it off, that can help them jump onto the next target sooner. And as for us, the ranged and healers, we can simply outrange the mana burn effect. It does not have a very long range. There's the whirlwind going out in the middle of all those folks standing in the middle there, but just one of them doing it is not so dangerous. The thing that kills the melee is if, say, there are 3 Slayers and they have not yet been pulled off in different directions by tanks or Fury Warriors wearing shields for this trash, all piled on top of a Mind Slayer, which the melee dive in on and wind up eating 3 whirlwinds all at once and instantly getting one shot, which is bad news bears, and also utterly stupid. There is a tremendous amount of this trash, so we'll be trying to skip past much of it, and I'll show you some of the highlights. Right here I've got the 2 Slayers, and I'm going to move off to the side with them because running back to the group is not good. The skull is almost dead, and the tank is in range of the mana burn.
Bye, have a great time.
But I am not, so they come onto me and finish me off. And that's why you get the hell away from those things ASAP. Later, one of our rogues decides it's a good idea to stand up ahead. He gets what's coming to him. Rest in pieces, and may you never pull another trash pack, you jerk. Anyway, we got a couple more Mind Slayers here, and this time I'm the victim of the mind control, the cause insanity. Our guildies are right on top of it with a Polymorph, Hammer of Justice, Blind, but the enemy was able to pop my rapid fire before I was CC'd. I get out quickly to pop off that trank shot. Meanwhile, all the melee are standing in close range to that Mind Slayer when it goes down, but they can finish off that other Mind Slayer on their own. We need to pay attention to the triangle and make sure that it stays tranked, just to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible. This time the Mind Slayer is where it needs to be, far away from the other stuff. And soon all that's left is the Ahn'qiraj champion, which knocks everyone else back, drops threat, and goes running for a Warlock, but it dies.
All the way.
If it's not Cthulhu, if it's Cthulhu, why do you say suck instead of cuck to describe Kelmore?
We're almost at some new trash, but first we've got another quadruple Slayer pack to deal with. We fired out the trank shot on the triangle, and I suppose we'll stack all these up even though they cleave. Did I mention that their cleave can be dodged? Their cleave can be dodged. If you see the debuff on them, you can duck out and you won't be hit by them. I tried it in the alt raid on my warrior and it worked just fine. But for some reason, the melee are a bunch of Zugs, so every single time they stand in and need all this damage that the healers have to heal, and that's why 2 melee died here even though this was the easiest possible combination. Damn you Zugs! Just do the mechanics and we won't have to pick your asses up, and oh goodness, I'm DCing. Never mind, we've spoken enough on time wasting and there's more time to waste on the next trash pack, so let's kill these I suppose. These things need to be mana burned just like the stuff at the beginning. Nothing special about these because they die satisfyingly fast actually. They have very little HP, and the skull can go down without any mana draining because of how quickly it dies, but the cross certainly ought to be mana drained because it is killed second. The big guy mostly just provides crowd control for their team, for the enemy, and it's terribly annoying. It can silence everyone, it can throw out a fire blast, it can root everyone, it can reduce your chance to hit. Just an annoying big mob. There are, however, only 4 of them in the entire raid, so I suppose we're fortunate in that regard. Here's another one of the same, and like the other nullifiers, we can zug these down. You can zug these down, alright? You can't zug the other trash down. Soon enough those nullifiers die, and there are no shenanigans in that regard, but there are certainly shenanigans when it comes to this big guy, because look at this, our druid tank who can move freely around decides to come right into my dead zone, make the wheelchair have a frickin' seizure on my screen, and I'm stuck here doing absolutely nothing but reading until the thing dies. Stuyven, you asshole! We can't get distracted, there's more trash to do. This time we're going to stick to our target, the triangle, like glue. Atheist is on the diamond, and because Skull and Cross are both Mind Slayers, they are of no concern to Rockbow. The Slayer is the Slayers are kind of finicky with aggro, so we'll have to play it as safe as possible with distance to them. Otherwise, they will come straight for us, like they're doing right now. My deterrence is down, and that's going to hurt a lot. Oh, that hurts a lot. Whew, close. Didn't need that healing potion, but it was good to pop anyway, just in case. Now both Slayers are down, we can kill the Ahn'qiraj Gladiator and move on to the next trash pack. This one is, again, containing a couple of Mind Slayers, and we're Mind Flayed, so there's nothing that we can do about Triangle at the moment, but we'll keep our eyes on it. There is the Frenzy, so let me jump away from it, fire out that Trank Shot as soon as I possibly can. Triangle is now on me, and ouch, that hurts. Luckily, the healers have my butt covered, because I am frazzled.
What are you aiming at?
Whoops. Auto-target fail, sorry cutie. We'll have to pick him up after this, after this trash, that is. Having auto-target on your shots is really convenient. You know, you can just click off whatever you're currently targeting, and then point your character in the direction of whatever you want to shoot at, and hit whatever key, and you'll open fire on that target. Even if you hit the wrong thing, you're still ideally going to hit something that needs to die, and put your auto shot on cooldown before correctly acquiring the priority target. Sometimes, however, that happens, and you hit something that doesn't need to die, so whoops. Anyway, we're going to finish off this here gladiator, and we're going to remember to take caution the next time that we auto-target around mind-controllable mobs. Here we are on the very last trash packs. There are 2 more packs of these obsidian nullifiers, and 1 more of those obsidian or Anubisath warders in each pack. The nullifiers go down once again, just as quickly and easily as they did before, at that satisfyingly fast speed that we absolutely love. And by the way, Cutie is dead again, and no, that was not my fault that time. He actually took an auto hit from one of these nullifiers, so that's on him, that's not on me. It's not my fault. The warder is annoying as usual, but we finish it off quickly enough. Let's move on. This final pack of trash is up on a hill, and I believe the ground here is out of Los, so the tanks should not run all the way up to the top here. You can fight on the ramp, and that's a-okay, but fighting at the top is going to Los the healers, and that won't be good. These guys don't hit particularly hard, but, you know, if they also need to mana burn, or if you get rooted up there by that warder, it's not going to be good for the group. Anyway, this is the last thing that needs to die. Cthulhu is next. You want to know about Cthulhu? I can sum him up in 2 words. Personal responsibility. That's it. Okay, that doesn't really explain the mechanics, but those are simple enough to summarize. You ready? Here we go. Cthulhu summarized in like 10 seconds. Phase 1, you kill the eyes over the claws over Cthulhu and stay the hell away from everyone else unless Cthulhu is red. Phase 2, eyes over giant eyes over claws over Cthulhu if he's vulnerable over giant claws. And you can stand wherever the hell you want as long as there's no giant eye that isn't stunned up. There you go. With that explained, let's take a quick look at the failed attempts so we know what not to do on Cthulhu.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Oh, hello there!
Bruh. Easy! I'm joking! No!
Ah, shit. Here we go again.
Help me!
You serious?
This concludes what not to do on Cthulhu. Got it? Great. Then, with that out of the way, let's proceed with the actual kill. First, we've got to walk into the room properly. Note how Stuyven goes in and immediately goes to the left, on the very outer ring of the room. I will cling to the center of the room as I hurry to my destination on the far side, and this is because traveling in a straight line to my destination will help me get there faster. Simple geometry. We have a lot of melee, but they're beefy boys, so some of them can stack up on top of each other. If they don't have very much HP, then stacking 2 of them on top of each other can actually kill them, so it's better to have world buffs. Hi there, Cthulhu, that tickles. You hit like a wet noodle. Anyway, if your melee are not beefy boys, let me kill that claw tentacle over here real quick. Then some of them can stand on the outside of the room and do absolutely nothing while the rest of you finish this phase. Maybe they can charge in whenever these eye tentacles show up, that they could finish those off during Dark Glare, because again, Dark Glare, you can move wherever you want. We're going to move to the opposite side of the room before this phase ends. There's another claw tentacle that pops up under me, and Cthulhu is going that way, so we're going to move on to this other side of the room and try to take out that claw before it despawns. If they sit there for too long without something to smack, they will despawn and appear under someone else at full HP. Same thing with the giant claw tentacles, which we saw in What Not to Do with Cthulhu. One of them despawned and appeared on the opposite side of the room. There's another claw tentacle behind me, so I'm going to go smack that. If needed, you can walk in on those and get smacked just to prevent it from despawning. There are some more eyes. They appear before and after Dark Glare in Phase 1. I'm getting Mind Flayed, and the melee really need to be on top of that. It looks like they were reasonably fast with taking those out, even though we did appear to lose someone. I don't know when that was. Cthulhu is already almost to Phase 2, though. He's at 33% or so. So we're just going to keep pew-pooing from right here. We're probably going to get another phase of eyes, another Dark Glare, and we can finish him off during that Dark Glare phase. But you should be cautious about running in on claw tentacles, though, because they can actually hamstring you, and that can slow you down, and if you do that near a Dark Glare, you might die, unless you can get, say, a Blessing of Freedom or something. Here's another Dark Glare, and, oh, it looks like someone got one shot there. But that's not our concern. We are going to take out the eyes as best we can. That one over there is not being interrupted because it was in the Dark Glare. Good on the melee for getting out of that instead of getting one shot, mostly. And we're going to move to the other side of the room, our original place. Now, with the giant claws and eyes that pops up in the second phase, or that pop up in the second phase, many guilds like to stack up somewhere, like on the far side of the room, and let the tentacles spawn in one place, but that can cause a lot of damage all at once on your gathered groupmates. So staying loosely stacked in the area is a fair idea. I forgot to have my pad up for this. I'm just going to res it here and feed it, and I'll leave it here for now. There's a giant claw. But my guild has decided that we want to stay spread out all around the room. We do not need much DPS to beat up these tentacles. It's not a DPS race with the tentacles so much. This way we get more area coverage and can more easily tackle the eyes that spawn around the room. Either strategy is viable. I've done it both ways. There's sense to both strategies. What matters is that we commit to a single strategy as a team in order to achieve victory. Here are some more eyes. And this one's on me, but it's taken out very quickly. We've got to rely on our guildies in some cases. Personal responsibility only goes so far. You could also kill Cthulhu with very little people, actually. But ideally you have as many people as possible alive for Phase 2, because there is a bit of a DPS race when Cthulhu becomes vulnerable. We're not shooting the boss right now because he's nigh invincible until he gets all purple. And speaking of which, there's only so much DPS that your guild may be able to do in one phase. And so, a giant call on the south side of the room this time. We can call this out and help everyone get there a little bit faster. Anyway, if you know that you're going to get a certain amount of vulnerability phases, like maybe you need 2 in order to beat Cthulhu, then perhaps it's a good idea to take out the claw tentacle, the giant claw tentacle, during the first vulnerability phase, for the sake of safety. And then the second vulnerability phase, if there's another giant claw for some reason, you can ignore it and just fight Cthulhu. There's a lot that can go wrong with anything up in this room, so ideally everything's dead by the time Cthulhu becomes vulnerable. We're going to just attack the boss now. While he's vulnerable, he does not spawn anything. This is cake. We sit here and pew pew. We've not gotten our rapid fire up, but we will have it up for the second vulnerability phase, and that's what I'm going to save it for. Cthulhu only stays vulnerable for about 40 seconds, and while we're DPSing, we'll try to move closer to our original spot on this west side of the room. And when Zora's done attacking the boss, when the vulnerability is gone, then we'll send him back to his spot, and he'll wait there until the second vulnerability phase. That's it. This fight is not healing intensive, it's not DPS intensive until the vulnerability phase. So, mechanically it's actually very well constructed, I think. You know, it's you don't need very many people. You don't need intense healing and lots of consumables. You don't need intense damage and all that. All you need is attention to the mechanics, and everyone is a-okay. And you can kill him with very few people. I like that about this fight. That's why this is one of my favorite fights in vanilla. There's the giant eye on the south side of the room once again. I have pinged it on the minimap to help folks get to it faster. We don't really have the ability to track these guys, so you have to kind of wing where you're going to drop your ping if you're going to ping for those things. By the way, if you want to check on the status down below when people are getting eaten there are some flesh tentacles in Cthulhu's stomach. They'll be finished off when the raid leader calls for it at an opportune time to make the tentacles stop spawning, and when it's time to slay Cthulhu. If you want to check on the progress of those things in the stomach, just type /tar flesh, because those things are called flesh tentacles. There are 2 of them in the stomach, so you can only see one at a time. But you can have a general idea of how the progress is coming along down there. If there's only one up, it'll only target that one. Oh, and there's a giant eye on me on the west side of the room. I've got Mind Flay on me again, but I've also got a major healing potion ready to go. A greater shadow protection potion can help you against the Mind Flays, but honestly, those are the only threat of damage on this fight from Cthulhu, really, besides the eye beams, of course. But if you're doing things right, that should not be a concern. The eye tentacles are the biggest, and the melee should be on top of those immediately. They do not have much HP, they can be CC'd. And this is a kill. This is a kill. Cthulhu cannot possibly survive beyond this point. There are no giant claws up to tank, there are no other tentacles, and they do not spawn, so... Huzzah! We have done it! Now let's see what we got. Ooh! Ring of the Godslayer! And that mace! How beautiful! The healers are happy, I'm sure.
I got next stun on Big Eye.
Tell me when. I can die whenever.
Kill it in 4 seconds. 3,
Yeah, kill it now.
2, 1, kill it now.
Pop everything.
Pop everything and you guys can win. Pop everything right here. Pop everything and you win.
Looks like a sad opportunity.
It is.
It's off the global.
DPS healers, DPS.
Yeah, healers, DPS, fucking smite them.
Smiting.
I am smiting the ever. If you don't think I'm fucking smiting this bitch, let's go.
Execute range.
Yes.
Easy peasy. Easy.
Yes, sir. We got the base.
Oh,
The
nice.
base. Oh my god, look at the rep. What the fuck?
Oh my god, the base.
Oh, enter.
Now that Cthulhu's down, we can go ahead and take our post-kill screenshot. Here we are lined up with all our bug mounts. And there's the shot. But we're not done yet. There are 3 side bosses in AQ40, which we skipped over on the way down to Cthulhu. So we're going to have a look at Hard Mode Bug Trio, we're going to have a look at Visitus, and we're going to have a look at Ouro. But first, there's a little bit of trash between us, where we split off near the beginning of the raid, and the Bug Trio. There are 3 packs of trash with Brainwashers and Vecnus Guardians in the way. But we've seen that trash already, so we can skip over it. I wasn't recording on this raid day, but Cutie always streams the raids, just in case, so here's the fight from his perspective.
Hold on. Pay attention to mechanics? I don't know about that.
Which one we go in first, Cutie?
Hold on 1 second, we're figuring that out. Let's do the wand. Let's do the wand one, right? Stoivan, I think.
All right. Yeah, or 3 last then.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Who's on kicks?
I am.
Dare and Pastor Zeke again, or Dare and Infinity again. Why
Can I
not?
get a new fear word, please, instead of
Yeah, I got.
Oh my god, I'm feared for so long with cooldowns up.
Sorry. Fear wording, Mike.
Alright, Kenny, you get next.
I can get
I got food. You can't get next.
Do you have it here?
Yeah, I got it.
I can get a kick.
Remember, they're gonna run over and devour its body when it dies. Alright, kill the X.
Oh, big.
Oh my god, my life.
No.
What the fuck?
Yeah, this thing's hitting me so hard right now.
That's
It's
the
rage.
that's the fight.
Be dispelled. They should be dispellable.
It crushed me.
No, I think it's dispellable by a hunter.
No,
No, it's not. There's
Oh,
nothing you can do.
priest try to purge?
It's an enraged.
I did.
I
Nothing
can't.
happened.
Kill it. Fucking kill it.
Yeah, just kill it. It's almost dead.
Uh,
Has like no fucking health. There.
No, it's Kree that's hitting hard.
They're both hitting hard.
I was not ready for that.
Mike, you're probably getting the shield wall. Yeah.
Yeah, just show wall, Mike.
Shield walling right now. I'm gonna sapper charge to get these bugs.
Like a fucking
Just kill the boss.
I used a nature protection potion there. Good thing I did. Alright, whatever. Easy enough.
Watch out, poison.
I got hit for 11k.
Kill his ads. Wipe the ads up with the ads.
Heal poison.
Well, that's alright.
That was a buck launcher.
I did not expect that to happen, jeez. Well, whatever, we killed it on quote-unquote hard mode for the logs.
Oh, I stood the toxic vapors!
Oh my god, I died.
Fucking rip. Oh my god.
You guys walked into the toxic cloud after the boss was dead and died?
Look how many people are dead.
So many people running in. What the?
So,
Facade?
Facade,
you're
literally
talking
Steven
right now.
just died.
Oh my god.
Anyway, Visitus is kind of a special fight. You don't kill him in the traditional sense. Rather, all you need is sheer numbers of attacks. First, frost attacks to freeze him, and then melee attacks to shatter him. And then, I suppose he also requires some consumables between nature protection potions, sapper charges, anti-venoms, and other such things. So, interestingly, you don't need any sort of damage stats on this fight. You need stamina, nature resistance, and just to do the mechanics. That's about it. Something that makes this easier is the fact that anti-venom and strong anti-venom do in fact work in AQ40 to dispel any sort of poison in here. And the reason for that is if you check Wowhead, you might notice that the level of the spells is below 20. So even the low level anti-venom will work. You do not need the powerful anti-venom. Here we go, Visitus is shattered, so now it's time for the fun part. I've tried to drop a trap of some sort, an explosive trap, but I couldn't quite get out of combat thanks to a feigned death resist. But that's alright, we've got a backup plan in the form of a sapper charge.
Nice.
Oh yeah, that was a fat sapper. But we're not quite done yet. Visitus does need to be refrozen because we didn't quite kill enough blobs. Each blob represents 5% of his HP. Before, we were trying to simply damage the blobs so that they could be finished off with the sappers all at once, but this time we're going to outright kill them. As long as Visitus reforms under 10% HP, which he does, he can be easily finished off. He simply breaks. He dies instantly without shattering into blobs below 10% HP. Simple enough, but it certainly does require some coordination. Now we're on to Ouro, the last side boss. Ouro's name is an obvious reference to the Ouroboros, but less obviously, to some, perhaps, he is also a reference to Dune, which is one of the most famous and influential sci-fi universes in existence. It is ancient though, so it may have been drowned out by other, more modern works, but its influence can still be felt, its influence can still be seen in places like this. One of the best trinkets that that can drop in here for us, the Jom Gabbar, is a reference to the Jom Gabbar in Dune, which I'll let you look that up if you care. We got a worm to fight here, a sandworm, which is blasting sand all over our faces and generally being mischievous, which we must put a stop to immediately. And by immediately, I mean we'll skip past all the boring parts of this fight because the real action is at 20%. I've taken another nature protection potion just in case of another sandblast, and it will come in handy during the execute phase, which is where things get real, and we're just about to hit it very soon. When he does, we'll be seeing the subterranean mechanics and above ground mechanics at the same time. We haven't seen a submerge phase because we've DPS'd him down quickly enough, and past 20% he'll never go below the ground. But those new mechanics will start showing up quite soon, so we've saved all our burst for this point, which is why I've popped my rapid fire. And there's one of the mechanics. The popcorn on the ground is going to chase people, and hopefully no one was going to die to that. You shouldn't. It's not difficult to shake off ya. Although back on private servers, it seemed that aspect of the cheetah did work to evade these things. Even if you took damage, it would not daze you. But on official classic, I believe it does daze you. So we can't like help the melee run away from it or anything. All we can do is run away from it as best we can without cheetah. And there's another mechanic. We've got scarabs popping up, and they're going to jump on all the healers. So we've got to finish off Ouro, however his name is pronounced, immediately. I fired off on some of the scarabs, but they're not coming off the healers. Let's finish Ouro and then turn our attention to those scarabs. He's down, but we're not out of the desert just yet. These scarabs are not going to go anywhere until we make them go away. I'm not sure about the popcorn. I guess we'll just keep running away from it as best we can and try to keep the scarabs, there are so many scarabs, off our healers. I've got a bear tank chasing the ones that are on me, and he's taking them as best he can. I have just enough mana to pop off the explosive trap, so I'll do that. Now we can try to get at range, try to keep at range, and keep firing on these things. My goodness, there are so many of them. It's too bad most of our group is dead. I think we've got this handled now, though, so while we finish off the scarabs, I'm going to close out this episode. This was our guild's first raid in AQ40, with the exception of the hard mode bug trio, which came during a later raid, but the easy way is boring. While most of the strategies are fair enough, I can't recommend copying anything we did on this messy Ouro. Please do what you will with this helpful infographic. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you need anything, I'll be in the Ravager Discord server linked in the description and looking out for your comments. I'll leave you here, but there's one more thing I'd like to show you before we go. I picked up some nice items from our first AQ40s, and you simply must behold the power of the Jom Gabbar. Enjoy, volume warning near the end, and see you in the next one. Bye!
Fuck it! See ya!
Nuclear launch detected.
Another one.